The farming valley stretched quiet under twin moons when the ships descended. Krivish watched through his scanner as human families settled into their evening routines, children playing in yards while parents finished daily chores. His crew had been observing Redwood Station for 3 weeks, mapping patrol patterns and identifying the most isolated homesteads. They have no orbital defense grid, his first mate reported. No automated sentries. No shield generators. These humans are completely vulnerable. Krivish nodded with satisfaction. The trader consortium had paid him well for exotic acquisitions before, but human children would fetch premium prices across a dozen markets. Wealthy collectors craved the unusual, and humans remained rare in this sector of space. Their reputation for violence was greatly exaggerated, he assured himself. Just primitive stories meant to scare rivals away from profitable opportunities. Begin the operation, he commanded. 3 smaller craft detached from the main hauler, gliding silently toward separate farms. Each team carried sleep gas canisters and portable stasis fields. The raids would be quick and clean. By dawn, they would be jumping to hyperspace with their cargo safely secured. The first farm belonged to a family named the Carters. Young twins Annie and Ben slept in adjacent beds. Their window faced the fields where their father grew grain for the colony. The alien team bypassed the simple alarm system within seconds, gas flooded the house through ventilation ducts. Within minutes, every occupant lay unconscious. 2 aliens entered the children's room. They lifted the sleeping twins with practiced efficiency, wrapping them in thermal blankets before carrying them to the waiting shuttle. The entire extraction took less than 4 minutes. Similar scenes unfolded at 2 other locations. Teenage Rachel was taken from the Henderson Ranch, Liam from the Miller homestead, young siblings Cody and Amy from the Brooks family, and Owen from the isolated Davis farm. 7 children total, aged 6 to 14, all vanished in the night without a sound. One father, Richard Davis, woke just before dawn. Something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. He stumbled to his son's room and found the bed empty. Strange burn marks scarred the grass outside Owen's window. In the pre-dawn light, Richard spotted a faint glow ascending rapidly into the sky. His scream woke the entire valley. Within an hour, Colonial Marshal David arrived at the Davis farm. He documented the evidence methodically. Non-human footprints in the soft earth, chemical residue that made his scanner beep with unknown compounds, scorch marks for what appear to be directed energy weapons used to cut through window locks. This wasn't random, David told the gathering crowd of parents. This was organized, professional. Ruth Henderson pushed through the assembled farmers. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with terrible focus. "Where's my daughter?" she demanded. "Where's Rachel?" David showed her the evidence bags. Same MO at all 7 farms. "Whoever did this has done it before. Then find them," Ruth said. Her voice carried across the crowd. "Find them now." The colonial governor authorized an emergency transmission to Earth Defense Force headquarters. The message was simple and devastating. 7 children abducted by unknown alien forces. Request immediate military assistance. The response came faster than anyone expected. Within hours, 2 destroyer squadrons changed course toward Redwood Station. A carrier group altered its patrol route. Admiral Morrison herself sent a personal message that played over every speaker in the settlement. "We are coming. Hold fast. We will bring them home." Meanwhile, aboard Krivish's cargo hauler, the children lay sedated in holding cells. The ship had already jumped to hyperspace, heading toward the consortium markets where buyers waited. The crew celebrated their successful harvest with fermented drinks and boastful stories. "The rumors about human aggression are nonsense," one crew member laughed. "Look how easy that was." Krivish's first mate was less certain. "I have heard stories," he said quietly. "Stories about what humans do when their young are threatened." "Superstition." Krivish waved dismissively. "They have no way to track us by the time they organize any response. These children will be scattered across 50 systems, untraceable." But he was wrong. Humans had been tracking ships through hyperspace for 2 generations. Technology born from centuries of warfare and desperation. Every vessel left a unique energy signature, a trail that human sensors could follow across vast distances. Back on Redwood Station, Ruth stood with the other parents in the Colonial Government Building. David spread star charts across the table, showing possible jump vectors. His deputy worked furiously at a communication terminal, coordinating with incoming military forces. How long? Ruth asked. How long until we find them? Human ships are already deploying sensor nets across 3 sectors, David replied. We'll find their trail. One of the fathers, a former Marine named Grant, spoke up. These aliens don't understand what they've done. He looked at the assembled parents, saw the same cold fury reflected in every face. They think we're soft, easy prey. Let them think that, Ruth said. Her hands were steady now. Purpose had replaced panic. Let them believe. They're safe. David received a priority message on his datapad. He read it twice before speaking. First contact. Military sensors picked up an exotic energy trail leaving the system 3 hours ago. Fleet Command is mobilizing pursuit vessels. I want to be on one of those ships, Ruth stated. Not asked, stated. Civilian involvement protocols, David began. My daughter is out there. Ruth interrupted. They took Rachel from her own bed. I don't care about protocols. I'm going. David looked at the other parents, saw the same determination in every eye. He made a decision that would echo across the galaxy for generations. I'll authorize it, he said. You'll serve as civilian specialists. You know your children better than anyone. The parents began preparing immediately. Ruth gathered photographs of Rachel, personal items that might help identify her. As she worked, she thought about the aliens who had taken her daughter. They had made a fatal miscalculation. They had stolen from humanity without understanding the consequences. Humans had hunted apex predators to extinction on old Earth, had crossed oceans and conquered continents to protect their families, had built weapons that could crack planets and engines that could cross galaxies, all in service of one fundamental truth. You do not touch our children. The aliens would learn this lesson. Ruth promised herself they would learn it the hard way. 3 weeks of hunting had turned Ruth's hair grayer, but her eyes remained sharp as she studied the holographic display aboard the human warship Relentless. Colored lines traced Krivish's energy signature across 6 star systems, each jump leaving telltale radiation patterns that human sensors devoured like bloodhounds on a scent. Commander Hayes stood beside her, his uniform crisp despite the constant alerts and briefings. We've narrowed the search to the consortium border regions, he said, pointing to a cluster of stations highlighted in red. Intelligence intercepted communications mentioning human cargo 2 days ago. Ruth's jaw tightened. The other parents gathered around the display. Grant, the former Marine, crossed his arms. How many stations? 47 in this sector alone. Hayes admitted. But we've deployed autonomous listening posts and bribed every information broker willing to talk. Someone will slip up. They did. A Velnari trader, nervous and sweating, contacted the Relentless 12 hours later. He had information about a dealer who purchased 2 human children from a cargo hauler matching Krivish's description. The price for this intelligence: immunity from prosecution and a new identity. Hayes agreed without hesitation. The dealer operated from a luxury station orbiting a gas giant in the Velnari system. When human ships emerged from hyperspace, the station's security forces went on immediate alert, but they relaxed when they saw the humans weren't attacking, just asking questions. We're looking for someone who bought human children. Hayes transmitted to the station master. Cooperate and there won't be trouble. The station master, a slug-like being named Horvek, tried to deny everything. Then Hayes broadcasted images of the kidnapped children to every screen on the station. Suddenly, cooperation came easily. The dealer's name was Palvis. He operated an exotic acquisitions business from the station's upper commercial levels. When human Marines arrived at his establishment, Palvis went white with terror. I purchased them legally, he protested, through authorized brokers. From kidnappers, Hayes said coldly. Where are they? Palvis's resistance crumbled immediately. Fear of human retribution outweighed any business loyalty. He provided locations for young Amy, who he'd sold to a wealthy collector named Solvek, and coordinates for Liam, Owen, and Cody, who had been transferred to different buyers across the station. Ruth went with the team to retrieve Amy. They found the 6-year-old in what Solvek called his collection room. A gilded cage sat in the center, decorated with alien symbols and exotic furnishings. Amy sat inside, dressed in strange clothes, looking small and frightened. When she saw Ruth, the little girl screamed, "I want my mommy. We're taking you home," Ruth said gently. She turned to Solvek with an expression that made the alien collector step backward. "Open the cage. I paid for her legally." Solvek stammered, "She's my property according to consortium law." Grant didn't wait for more discussion. He fired his weapon once. The lock shattered. Amy scrambled out, and Ruth caught her, holding the trembling child close. "Take him into custody." Hayes ordered his Marines. "Charge him with possession of stolen persons." "You can't," Solvek protested. "This is consortium space. You have no authority." Hayes leaned close. "We just made ourselves the authority. File a complaint." The humans didn't. "Leave quietly." Hayes broadcasted a message to the entire station. His voice carried through every corridor and compartment. "We are searching for 7 human children stolen from their homes. Anyone holding these children, return them immediately. Anyone with information, come forward now. This is your only warning." 3 more children were recovered within hours. Buyers and dealers practically ran to the Relentless. Desperate to avoid human anger, Liam, Owen, and Cody were reunited with their families. All 3 had been kept in holding areas, treated like valuable cargo rather than people. For children's sake, 3 still missing. Intelligence officers worked around the clock. They traced the remaining children through a network of sales records and communication intercepts. The twins, Annie and Ben, had been sold to a research facility on an industrial world called Cavros. Rachel's trail led to a private collector ship that kept changing course whenever human vessels approached. Ruth held Amy as the child slept. The little girl hadn't let go of her since the rescue. The other recovered children were receiving medical evaluations. Liam had lost weight. Owen had bruises from rough handling. Cody wouldn't speak. They treated them like animals. Ruth said to Hayes, "I know." The commander replied, "That's why we're not stopping." The Relentless split its forces. One team would assault the research facility on Cavros. Another would pursue the collector's ship. Hayes asked Ruth which team she wanted to join. "The research facility," she answered. "Annie and Ben are younger. They'll be more frightened." Krivish, meanwhile, was running out of options. He'd heard about the station raid, about how quickly the buyers had surrendered his entire network. Human ships were everywhere now, hunting him, tracking every transaction. His crew had mutinied 2 days earlier. They'd heard stories about what happened to aliens who harmed human children. The entire crew had taken an escape pod, leaving Krivish alone with his final captive, Rachel. He contacted a buyer in the lawless sectors, an arms dealer named Torvin who operated from a fortress station beyond consortium jurisdiction. Torvin agreed to pay triple the asking price, but only if Krivish delivered immediately. Krivish plotted a course toward the Galactic Rim, where human authority grew thin. He believed he could disappear into the lawless zones, sell Rachel, and vanish forever, but human intelligence was listening. They intercepted his communication with Torvin, triangulated his position. Fleet Command immediately diverted additional ships to intercept. Aboard the Relentless, Ruth studied the updated tracking data. Rachel was moving away from civilized space, toward regions where criminals and warlords ruled, where human law meant nothing. "How long until we catch them?" she asked. 48 hours to intercept, Hayes replied. "But Torvin's fortress is another problem. It's designed to withstand fleet assaults. Then we'll find another way." Ruth said she'd already lost 3 weeks. She wouldn't lose her daughter. The Traitor Consortium border fortress materialized on their screens like a steel warning. Admiral Heskin's voice crackled through the communication channel, cold and bureaucratic. "Human vessels, you are entering sovereign consortium space without authorization. Turn back immediately or face defensive action." Commander Hayes didn't blink. He activated a broad-spectrum transmission that reached every ship, station, and settlement within 20 light years. Images of the 7 kidnapped children. Flooded consortium networks. Their faces, their names, the circumstances of their abduction. We are pursuing kidnappers who stole these children from their homes, Hayes announced. We will not turn back. We will not negotiate. Stand aside. The consortium fleet held position. Then something unexpected happened. Civilian ships began broadcasting messages of support. Species from a dozen worlds expressed outrage at child trafficking. Some had lost their own young to similar operations over the years. Heskin found himself facing a political firestorm. Internal consortium channels exploded with debate. Conservative factions demanded the humans be repelled, but others, horrified by the images of caged children in research facilities, demanded Krivish's immediate arrest. A transmission arrived from the consortium council. Heskin read it. His shoulders sagged. You have limited access, he told Hayes. Pursue your targets, but any collateral damage will have consequences. Hayes accepted. The terms. The human fleet pushed deeper into consortium space. Intelligence confirmed the twins' location. A research complex on the industrial world Kavros. The facility specialized in xenobiology, studying how different species adapted to various environments. They had purchased Annie and Ben through what they claimed were legitimate channels. Ruth joined the Marine Assault team. She'd insisted. Hayes had tried to argue, but the look in her eyes ended the discussion. Grant and 2 other parents came along, former military. They knew how to handle themselves in combat. The facility sat in a sprawling industrial zone, surrounded by factories and processing plants. Security was minimal. They didn't expect trouble from anyone except corporate rivals. Human drop ships descended in the early morning. Local time. Marines breached the facility perimeter in under 30 seconds. Security guards took one look at the armored humans and dropped their weapons. No one wanted to die protecting. Research data. Ruth ran through the corridors, following the facility map on her tactical display. The research wing was deep inside, past laboratories filled with alien specimens and incomprehensible equipment. She found the twins in a medical observation ward, separated into different rooms. Annie sat on an examination table, electrodes attached to her head, monitoring her brain activity while she solved puzzles. Ben was in an adjacent room, his arm in an improvised splint, clearly broken but left untreated. Mom. Annie screamed when she saw Ruth through the window. Ruth used her weapon to shatter the door lock. She swept Annie in her arms while Grant freed Ben. The boy was trying not to cry. His broken arm bent at an unnatural angle. We've got you, Ruth whispered. You're safe now. The lead researcher, an insectoid being called Drivik, appeared in the doorway. You can't just take them, he protested. They're part of an ongoing study. We purchased them legally. Ruth turned to face him, still holding Annie. You broke a child's arm and didn't treat it. We were observing natural healing responses, Drivik explained, as if this made it acceptable. Human adaptability is fascinating. The data we're gathering. Hayes arrived, stopping Ruth before she could do something she'd regret. Dr. Drivik, he said formally, you're under arrest for illegal experimentation on sentient beings. We have consortium permits, Drivik insisted. Those permits just became worthless. Hayes replied. He signaled his Marines, shut down this facility. Free any other captives you find. Seize all research data. They discovered 43 other beings held in the research wing. Species from across the galaxy. Some had been there for years. The humans freed them all, provided medical care, arranged transport home. News of the raids spread instantly. The consortium government faced unprecedented public pressure. How many other facilities operated in legal gray areas? How many beings suffered in the name of scientific advancement? Meanwhile, Krivish was running. His small courier ship couldn't outrun military vessels, but it could hide. He had changed his transponder code 6 times, jumped through uninhabited systems, done everything possible to lose his pursuers. But human sensors were relentless. They tracked heat signatures, ion trails, even the subtle gravitational distortions his ship created passing through normal space. He received Torvin's coordinates, the fortress. Station waited in a lawless sector where no government held authority. If he could just reach it, He'd be safe, protected by mercenary armies and weapons platforms. Rachel sat in the small holding cell, her hands bound. She'd stopped crying days ago. Now she just felt numb. The alien who'd taken her seemed increasingly desperate, talking to himself, checking scanners constantly. She'd heard him mention selling her to someone named Torvin. Heard enough to know this Torvin was dangerous, that the fortress he operated was designed to keep people out, or in. But Rachel had also heard something else through the ship's thin walls. Krivish monitoring human pursuit channels. He was terrified. She could hear it in his voice when he muttered about human ships, about how they never stopped, never gave up. Good, she thought. Come get me. Back aboard the Relentless, Ben received proper medical treatment. His arm was set and placed in a regeneration cast. Annie refused to leave Ruth's side. The trauma. Counselors said it would take time, that both twins would need extensive therapy, but they were alive, safe. That's what mattered. For children recovered. 2 more located, 1 still missing. Hayes gathered his senior staff. Torvin's fortress is our next target, he explained. It's heavily fortified, designed to repel fleet assaults. Direct approach won't work. Then we go in quiet, said Cole. A special forces veteran who'd volunteered for the mission. Small team, stealth insertion, extract. Rachel before they know we're there. Suicide mission, one officer commented. Maybe, Cole agreed, but we've come this far. Ruth studied the fortress schematics, looking for weaknesses. I'm going, she stated. Hay started to object, then stopped. He'd seen what these parents were capable of. Their determination had driven this entire operation. All right, he said. We'll need your help anyway. You know Rachel. She'll trust you. The plan took shape, while the fleet created a distraction. A small team would infiltrate the fortress, find Rachel, and escape before Torvin's forces could respond. Simple in concept, nearly impossible in execution, but humans had built careers on achieving the impossible. Torvin's fortress looked like someone had weaponized a small moon. Defensive platforms bristled from every surface. Mercenary warships patrolled in overlapping patterns. Energy shields shimmered across critical sections. Ruth counted at least 40 potential kill zones before giving up. That's not a station, Grant muttered. That's a declaration of war. Commander Hayes had tried negotiating. Torvin's response was a weapons lock and a terse message. Leave now or be destroyed. The arms dealer had built his reputation on absolute security. No government had ever breached his fortress. No military force had dared try. Until now. Cole assembled the infiltration team in the shuttle bay. Ruth, Grant, 2 Marines named Phillips and Anderson, and an engineer called Peters who could crack any security system ever designed. 6 people against a fortress. The odds were absurd. We go in through the waste reclamation system, Cole explained, highlighting a route on the holographic map. It's the only section without triple redundancy on sensors. Peters gets us past the initial locks. Then we move through maintenance tunnels to the central tower, where Rachel is being held. Ruth finished. She'd memorized every detail of the fortress layout, every corridor, every checkpoint. Hayes clasped her shoulder. The fleet will begin its assault run exactly 30 minutes after you launch. That should pull most of Torvin's forces to the perimeter. You'll have maybe an hour before they realize what's happening. We only need 20 minutes, Cole said. He didn't mention that getting out would take longer, possibly much longer. The infiltration shuttle, painted black and running silent, detached from the Relentless. It drifted toward the fortress on minimum thrusters. Looking like debris, Peters had spoofed its electronic signature to read as a damaged cargo pod. They reached the waste reclamation port without incident. Peters worked on the access panel, his fingers flying across the alien interface. Security here is laughable, he whispered. They rely on the fortress's external defenses. Never expected anyone to actually reach this point. The lock disengaged, they slipped inside. The maintenance tunnels were cramped and dark, designed for automated drones, not people. Ruth squeezed through narrow passages. Following Cole's lead, Grant brought up the rear, weapon ready. They encountered a mercenary patrol near the 3rd junction. For guards, bored and inattentive, Grant neutralized 2 with silent shots. Phillips took the 3rd. Cole handled the 4th before he could trigger an alarm. Keep moving, Cole ordered. Peters hacked into a maintenance terminal, downloading security protocols and patrol schedules. Torvin's in his command center, he reported. Rachel's in holding Area 7. Central Tower, 3 levels down. They altered course, moving deeper into the fortress. The tunnels gave way to actual corridors. Cleaner, better lit, more dangerous. Every corner could hide guards. Every camera could spot them. But Peters was a genius with security systems. He looped camera feeds, spoofed motion sensors, made them invisible to the fortress's electronic eyes. The team reached the central tower without raising an alarm. Holding Area 7 was behind a reinforced door. Armed guards stood watch. Ruth counted 6. All heavily armed. All alert. Can you bypass the lock? Cole asked Peters. Not without triggering alarms. Peters admitted. That door's connected to the main security grid. Then we do this loud, Cole decided. He signaled the team. On 3. They hit the guards hard and fast. Grant's first shot dropped the nearest mercenary. Phillips and Anderson took 2 more. Cole engaged the remaining 3 in close combat, while Ruth ran for the door. Peters worked frantically at the control panel. Alarms were blaring now. The entire fortress knew they were here. The door opened. Rachel sat in a cell beyond. Her eyes widened when she saw Ruth. Mom, she gasped. Ruth ran to her daughter, checking for injuries. Rachel looked thin, exhausted, but alive. We're taking you home, Ruth promised. Krivish appeared in the doorway. The kidnapper looked desperate, trapped. He raised a weapon. You ruined everything, he snarled. Ruth turned, putting herself between the alien and her daughter, but Rachel moved faster. She'd spent weeks watching her captors, learning their weapons. She grabbed a discarded rifle from one of the fallen guards and fired. The shot caught Krivish in the shoulder. He went down screaming. Nobody takes me again, Rachel said, her voice shaking but determined. Cole secured Krivish. We need to move, now. The fortress's security forces were converging on their position. Peters reported dozens of mercenaries closing in. Exit routes were being sealed. They were trapped. Hayes, Cole transmitted. We have Rachel, but we're pinned down. Central Tower, holding Area 7. Copy that. Hayes responded, stand by. Outside. The human fleet had engaged Torvin's defenses. Not a probing attack. A full assault. Destroyers hammered the fortress shields while fighters targeted weapons platforms. The mercenary fleet scrambled to respond. Hayes ordered a precision strike. Target the central tower. Section 7. Collapse the shields but maintain structural integrity. Sir, the infiltration team is in that section. The weapons officer protested. I know. Hayes said grimly. Fire. Energy beams lanced through space, focused on a single point. The fortress shields flickered, failed. Explosive decompression warnings blared through the corridors. Seal your suits, Cole ordered. The team activated their armor's emergency protocols. A massive explosion tore through the tower's eastern wall. Vacuum rushed in. Mercenaries and debris were sucked into space. The infiltration team. Magnetic boots engaged. Held position. There's your exit. Hayes transmitted. Extraction shuttle inbound. 30 seconds. They ran. Through the breached wall. Rachel held tight to Ruth. The team jumped into open space. A human shuttle swooped in, caught them in its cargo bay, accelerated away as the fortress's automated defenses tried to target them. Torvin's voice screamed over all channels. You've started a war. No. Hayes replied. We finished one. The shuttle docked with the Relentless. Ruth carried Rachel to the medical bay where the other children waited. All 7 together for the first time since the abduction. Annie and Ben ran to Rachel, hugging her. Cody and Amy joined in. Liam and Owen stood nearby, smiling. Finally, they were all safe. Krivish and the other capture traffickers were secured in the brig. They would face trial, face justice, but first, the children were going home. 6 months after the last rescue, the Galactic Court assembled on neutral ground. a massive station where representatives from 200 species gathered to witness justice. Ruth sat in the observer gallery, the other parents beside her. Below, Krivish and his co-conspirators stood in containment fields, awaiting judgment. The chief magistrate, an ancient being whose species had mediated conflicts for millennia, called the court to order. We gather to address crimes that have shocked the civilized galaxy. Her voice carried through translation devices, the systematic abduction and trafficking of sentient young. Prosecutors presented evidence methodically, communication logs, financial records, testimony from dozens of victims across multiple species. Krivish's operation had been vast, spanning 40 systems, operating for nearly a decade. The humans weren't his only victims. Just as most recent, the defense attorney, a skilled consortium lawyer, tried arguing legal technicalities. My clients operated within established trade frameworks, he claimed. Many of the transactions were processed through legitimate brokers. Then Rachel took the stand. She'd grown in 6 months. No longer the frightened teenager pulled from that cell. She stood straight, her voice clear. They treated us like cargo, she testified. Drugged us, locked us in cells, sold us to anyone willing to pay. One facility broke a child's arm and didn't treat it because they wanted to study how humans healed. She looked directly at Krivish. You took children from their beds. You separated families. You did this knowing exactly what you were doing. The defense had no response. Annie and Ben testified next. Their mother had wanted to spare them, but the twins insisted. They wanted everyone to know. Ben showed his arm. Healed now, but carrying scars. Annie described being sold to a research facility, treated like an experiment. The magistrate heard it all, her expression unreadable. When testimony concluded, she conferred with her fellow judges. The deliberation took less than an hour. We find the defendants guilty on all charges, the magistrate announced. Krivish, you orchestrated this operation. You are sentenced to permanent exile in an isolated penal colony. Your co-conspirators will serve proportional sentences. Additionally, all assets are forfeit, to be distributed among victims as restitution. But the trial did more than punish criminals. It sparked change. The Galactic Assembly passed the Protection of Sentient Young Act within weeks. It established universal standards for protecting children across all species, created enforcement mechanisms, closed legal loopholes that traffickers had exploited. The Trader Consortium formally apologized to humanity, offered reparations, promised to audit every transaction involving sentient beings. Several governments that had harbored traffickers faced economic sanctions. Political pressure forced reforms. On Redwood Station, the 7 children worked on healing. Professional counselors helped them process trauma. They met regularly as a group, supporting each other through nightmares and flashbacks. Ben's arm had healed perfectly thanks to human medical technology. Annie still had trouble sleeping, but her parents were patient. Rachel had become an advocate, speaking at schools and government assemblies about trafficking. Her testimony influenced policy across human space. The younger children, Cody and Amy, recovered faster. Children were resilient. Liam and Owen found comfort in routine, returning to school, playing with friends, living normal lives. One unexpected development came from Solvek, the collector who'd purchased Amy. During his trial, he'd argued genuine ignorance. In my species, he explained, young are raised communally. There is no concept of parental bonds. I didn't understand what I was doing. Human cultural specialists confirmed this. Many species had vastly different approaches to child rearing. The abduction that seemed monstrous to humans was, to some aliens, simply commerce. This realization led to unprecedented cultural exchange. Species shared their family structures, explained their values. Humans described their fierce protective instincts, how evolution on dangerous Earth had made them willing to cross galaxies to save their young. Other species began to understand. Some even admired this trait. A few requested human security forces to patrol their space. Knowing that anyone who threatened children would face humanity's wrath, Ruth addressed the Galactic Assembly via holographic transmission. Representatives from across known space watched. We are not conquerors, she said. We are not seeking to impose our ways on others. But understand this. Human children are sacred to us. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us at every turn. Our survival depended on protecting our young at any cost. She paused, letting the words sink in. We will cooperate with all civilized species. We will respect your laws and customs. But if you take our children, her voice hardened, nothing will stop us from bringing them home. No distance, no force, no authority. We will find them. We will rescue them. And we will ensure justice. The assembly received her words in silence. Then, slowly, representatives began signaling approval. Even species who had never understood human behavior recognized the sincerity, the absolute commitment. Back on Redwood Station, evening settled over the farming valley. The 7 children gathered at the Henderson Ranch for a celebration. 6 months of recovery. 6 months of healing. They'd survived. Ruth watched them play. Annie and Ben chasing each other through the fields. Rachel keeping protective watch over the younger ones. Liam and Owen building something with scrap metal. Cody and Amy laughing at some shared joke. Grant stood beside her. They're going to be okay, he said. Yes, Ruth agreed. They are. In orbit above, human patrol ships maintained constant vigilance. The kidnapping had changed humanity's approach to space. They would never again leave their settlements undefended. Never again assume others shared their values. Word had spread through criminal networks across the galaxy, transmitted in dozens of languages, repeated in every shadowport and black market. Never take a human child. The warning was clear, backed by evidence, reinforced by the speed and totality of humanity's response. Some species called humans overprotective. Others thought them dangerously aggressive, but everyone agreed on one fundamental truth. When it came to their young, humans were absolutely, unquestionably, unstoppable. Rachel walked over to Ruth. Thanks, she said simply. For what? For never giving up, Rachel replied. For coming across the galaxy. For doing everything it took. Ruth pulled her daughter close. Always, she promised. We'll always come for you. Above them, the stars shone. Bright, a galaxy full of wonders and dangers. But also, now, a galaxy that knew. Humanity protects its own.